Tonight, a miner in search of gold dies in a Zeka center region of Cameroon. This newscast will tell you why and how it happened. Also ahead, one person has perished following the heavy rain that battered the country's economic capital, Douala, in the early hours of this morning. In the second part of this newscast, we are going to be evaluating the first mandate of the first ever senators in Cameroon. That's going to be with our guest, who is an actor of the civil society. Those are headlines. Stay with us. We shall be right back. Good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching the primetime newscast on Equinox television. We thank you for joining us. Let's begin right away here in the economic capital, Douala. One person has died and another severely injured as a result of the downpour that occurred in the economic capital, Douala, today. Business premises and offices were equally destroyed as a result of the rain. The most hit neighborhood was the BP City neighborhood, as Smart Njikangebro tells us in the following report.
2-year-old Kembong Henry James is one of the victims of the heavy downpour that occurred in Douala early Monday morning. It all began like a joke to several inhabitants at the BP City neighborhood.
I was in the house with my family at around 2:30 a.m. that I heard noise on the zinc. Then I thought it was simple wind. Then after a while, I heard this coming with serious force. I hear a stone shooting on the zinc. Then my wife woke up and shouted, "Daddy, let's run outside."
The mission to help survive others caught in the debris was a Herculean one.
When we came outside now, I turned on the right and see that my neighbor's room was already down. Then I tried to let my wife cross the veranda to the next door.
Unfortunately, 50-year-old Azine Jimmy, who was being transported to La Kentini from the protesting hospital, couldn't survive from his severe wounds as he was terribly trapped in the debris.
Before I even get to his room, there were obstacles, there were planks and blocks everywhere. So it was not easy for me to get in. So when I got in, I was seeing only his head, because there was no, first of all, light. I was seeing only his head. Then I was calling, he was shouting. When I got in, I was seeing his head, and when I was coming towards his head, I was inside already walking on him, because he was covered with blocks and planks.
Apart from the injuries and death, alongside residents destroyed as a result of the rains, personal businesses also crumbled as an entire library saw its contents soaked in water. The lost items have been evaluated at 4 million francs CFA. The treasury at Aqua also felt the effect of the rains as its roof was taken off by the heavy winds that accompanied the rain, leaving its director to the open air. Notwithstanding the roof that was swept away, it didn't disturb workers who were present to serve their clients.
The rainy season yet to begin, but the impact already been felt in some parts of the country's economic capital, Douala. Now, 13 recently promoted elements of the Special Amphibious Battalion, that is the Special Battalion in Tico of the southwest region of the country, received their epaulets. That was this weekend. They pledged to remain steadfast in defending the country's territorial integrity. Derek Jato tells us more in this report.
Promoted to higher ranks last March 28, 2018, the 13th element of the Special Amphibious Battalion here at the Tico camp, before their commander Colonel Kevin Gande, received their epaulets as senior warrant officers, staff sergeant, lance corporal and corporal. Appreciating their hierarchy for recognizing hard work, the laureate promised to keep alive the tenacity that has brought them this glory.
My promise is to serve the army to protect my country, because that's the job I chose, and I shall continue to protect my country to the end.
I promise to save the country with all my heart, with all my soul.
The Epaulette Award ceremony was attended by the authorities of Tiku Subdivision, family members, and friends of the newly promoted element of the Special Amphibious Battalion.
We take you to this sad incident which occurred in Ezeka of the Center region of Cameroon, where a miner died in search of gold in that part of the Nyon-Kelly division of Cameroon. The miner died after drowning in lake, as Babla Jonathan tells us in the following report.
He went in search for gold. He got a piece of it, but will never return home with it. An inhabitant of Ezeka in the Nyon-Kelly division, Center region of Cameroon, dead in the quest for gold. He is said to have plunged into the lake in a bid to recover a piece of gold that fell off his hand into the water. It took several hours for over 20 gold miners to take out his corpse from the bottom of the lake. And this is the peak of consequences of illegal gold mining in Ezeka. It had been banned by the Nyon-Kelly divisional delegate of the Ministry of Mines, Industries and Technological Development, but the miners have continued violating that administrative order.
And in politics, the Constitutional Council would begin deliberations on the petitions filed by opposition party leaders following the senatorial election that took place across the national territory a few days ago. One of the petitions have been filed by the Social Democratic Front Party calling for the total cancellation of the March 25th senatorial election in the southwest region of Cameroon. The SDF party said that the election was marred by tension in Bangem, Kupe Maninkuba division of the southwest region of Cameroon, and equally talked about irregularities that plagued the election in Lebiadem division, where the Social Democratic Front Party says that the polling station closed several hours before 6 p.m. The CDU political party of Adamu Damjoya is equally complaining against irregularities in the west region of the country, precisely in the Haut Plateau and Menoa divisions of Cameroon. The Constitutional Council is going to be meeting tomorrow. That's going to be for the third time since the various members of the council were put in place. It should be noted that they had met during the two previous sessions. It was to review or deliberate on the various petitions filed as far as the prior to the senatorial election. On to something else, we now talk about the Easter Sunday, how celebrations took place in some parts of the country. Renewing faith and hope in Christ should be the take-home message of Christians as they celebrated Easter yesterday. That was the take-home message of the Bishop of Kumbo Diocese to Christians. That was on yesterday Sunday at the Kumbo Diocese in Bui Division of the Northwest region of Cameroon. His Lordship George Nku reminded Christians that challenges would come, but their faith in Christ would make them overcome the challenges. Easter was also time for clergymen in Kumbo to call for Christians or un-Christians to pray for peace. The Christians left the celebrations or the celebrated Easter with deeper knowledge and reflection on the assignment that they have before God. They indicated that it is time to pray for peace in Cameroon in general. Let's now have the excerpts respectively of the Bishop of the Kumbo Diocese in the Northwest region of Cameroon and a Christian of the parish. They were speaking to our correspondent in Kumbo, Chris Confon. Take a listen.
To all who believe in Jesus, it will bring upon our tongues.
Easter, we know as one of the, according to our Christian tradition, the most important feast, most important key event in the history of mankind. And it is because it reassures us that in spite of all the troubles and all the common visible presence and attack of the devil, Jesus Christ through the resurrection has fought the battle and won the battle. Now, all we need to do as Christians is that we must unite ourselves to through our baptism, with the power of the Lord Christ, to conquer everywhere in our lives the forces of darkness in the world. Christ is the light of the world, and he has conquered darkness. And that's why we sing hallelujah this time. We know that Christ is risen. So whatever the troubles, and the troubles will be there, we have a companion who has conquered, and we united. That's the basic thing. And that's what keeps us going. In the heart of all the darkness and all the trials and all the difficulties we have, Jesus accompanies us, and he has risen, and he has conquered them. He has conquered all the forces of darkness. That's what we celebrate.
I think Easter, to me, what the Christian should do is reflect over the last 1 year, and you do everything to work in consonance with the preaching of the gospel, and do everything to practice it. Yeah, I think Easter to me is the most important day of the church days, because it's a day of fulfillment. It's a day that gives hope today to mankind, otherwise we will have completely perished. So I consider it as the most important day in the calendar of the church.
Let us now see how Easter was celebrated in the two Anglophone regions of Cameroon. It was under tight military surveillance that the event unfolded in the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon. Police officers were deployed on the different prayer and worship grounds to guard against any possible attack from some yet to be identified individuals. Let's have the details of that report with Babla Jonathan.
Forces of law and order on alert, watching over Christians on Easter Sunday in Tombel in the southwest region of Cameroon. Christians celebrate the resurrection of their Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, under tight security in a region hit by socio-political and security crisis for more than a year. Despite the looming danger, fear, and uncertainty, the sons and daughters of God sing praise to their Father. They are comforted by a message of liberation conveyed by the Easter feast.
Jesus Christ has risen, and so this day we are celebrating this great event. A message of reconciliation, a message of liberation. That is a message that as God raised Jesus Christ from death, therefore we should raise people who are in desperate situations, we should raise them up, and God is going to bless us. That is the message of today, and that is our context for Easter in Cameroon, in Tombe, and everywhere. To those who have lost their dear ones, encouragement to our leaders that we can sit together in dialogue so that this situation in Cameroon can be destroyed and then the enemy can be put to shame.
They are praying for peace to return to the southwest region, northwest region, and Cameroon as a whole.
And in news out of Cameroon, the South African anti-apartheid fighter Winnie Mandela has died at the age of 81. Her death today was confirmed by her personal assistant. Winnie Mandela was the former wife of the South Africa's President Nelson Mandela. The couple famously pictured hand in hand as Mr. Mandela walked out. That was out of prison after where he spent about 27 euros. And it should be noted that Winnie Mandela has equally been fighting against apartheid, that is for several decades. However, she became tainted in the recent years, legally and politically. Her family is yet to make an official statement following her passing. And that brings us to the end of this first segment of the news. Up next is Talking Points. Stay with us. We shall be right back. Announced earlier that we are going to be looking or evaluating the just ended March session of Parliament with an actor of the civil society, Mr. Davison D. Ade. Good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Talking Point.
Good evening, Mimi. Good evening, dear listeners.
Thank you so much for coming once again. Now, the March session of Parliament has just ended, It's time for us, as I indicated, to assess the achievements of the people's representatives who have been there for 5 years now. They were elected and appointed since 2013. First of all, before we assess what they have been able to achieve or their failures, of course, let us first of all take a look at the March session of Parliament. What were you able to retain during the just ended parliamentary session?
I'm afraid not very much. I think the March session hasn't been very different from their 5 years mandate. This is a parliament that is just follows orders. They have no independent debate. They don't seem to be talking on behalf of the people. They seem to be echoing what their champion says.
We saw a quite different National Assembly in November 2017. We saw how the Social Democratic Front was demonstrating,
yes,
calling for the need for the Anglophone crisis to be included on the agenda.
Yes,
but
and
it was a practically different scenario in March.
We all saw that, and we saw typically what happened or what failed to happen. It didn't move the majority one bit. Instead permitted the President of the National Assembly to show his limitations or his powerlessness, actually not listening to the people.
Many had the impression that this March session of the Parliament was going to be an opportunity for parliamentarians to address the Anglophone crisis, looking at what
exactly, but
last year.
You see, their orders seem to be coming from somewhere. They are remotely controlled. And quite honestly, if the person who is controlling them remotely had given the cue, had made them understand that it's okay to talk about it, I'm sure they would have. I'm very convinced that a lot of them, and I'm talking of all on both sides of the divide, have a lot to say about the crisis. Some of them even have what could be considered useful solutions, but they dare not talk. They seem to be gagged, and it's a shame. I don't know they themselves what they think they have achieved for the people as representatives, but I'm sure all they are hoping for is that they'll be returned come the next elections.
Talking about achievement, we saw a good number of them wanting to be senators for the second time, saying that the first time was just trial period. Those were the declarations of some senators in Cameroon that were voted by Cameroonians, that they were still examining. They were still at the was still the experimental phase for them as senators, and that if they are given a second chance, there could be changes.
Oh, I think that's they're just tricking us. What are they experimenting? What is the results of their experiment? What can they tell us that they have now learned that they would do that they do not do? No, I think their mandate is 5 years, and I think all they want is some more 5 years. And who can blame them? When you earn that amount of money, you have that amount of privilege, and you don't do anything, you don't take any risk, you don't say anything on behalf of the people, you don't work for anything. Well, all you can do is ask.
Possibly they could do more if they are given the chance, 5 more years.
But who should give them the chance? They should seize it. They should be a little bit more active, more daring. I'm sure they're just cowards. They're just cowards. Look at what the SDF tried to do. I'm not saying that the SDF they should be rebels or they should be disobedient, but they were at least trying to kick in a debate. They wanted for the people's representatives to speak on something that
which was not
the
accepted
people.
By the majority in Parliament.
No, it was not. It was not a question of not being accepted by the majority.
It was not welcomed.
It was not welcomed by the powers that be. Nobody took a vote. Nobody asked their opinion. They just knew that they didn't have to debate it. And I think the President of the National Assembly famously said the matter was being handled by the presidency and that it was being handled properly. Is that what the parliamentarians should say?
Surprisingly, just a few, very few of the senators and parliamentarians could be able to give a positive balance sheet of what they have been able to achieve throughout the 5 years?
Very few indeed. Very few. They could do much more. The country is still, in terms of republics, is still very young. There's still so much to do. And we are not even beginning to do it. When are we going to start? Why all this inertia? Why is this not doing anything? Why this waiting? We're waiting for what? For who? For somebody else? It's a shame, really, because I think there's so much that can be done. There's so much that should be done. And I'm hoping, I dare say against hope, that the next session will be something else.
Were some opposition leaders in Cameroon right about their questions on the putting in place of the Senate? Because to many, it is time and waste of time and resources. Were they right?
I think so.
Looking at your
they're very much right, and I think, except for the greedy people who benefit from it, the Senate actually is just another economic post that just use money for nothing. We have other countries, I mean, I'm particularly thinking of Senegal, where they have actually evaluated, where the head of state, Macky Sall, said famously that this thing is not serving any purpose. This money can be used otherwise. And he actually cancelled the Senate, stopped it, took the money, and everybody saw what he has done with it. He has been able to produce solar energy, which they would have found difficulty, or they would have had problems getting the money otherwise. And more people in Senegal will benefit from solar energy, renewable energy. And this is something we can do with this money that is being spent on the Senate. And don't forget that they have not even built their permanent home. So we can think of the milliards that will go to that. And there's still no program for them to work. There's still no project. What are they going to come and do?
Many are unable to give a positive balance sheet as far as the first ever senators in Cameroon is concerned. But what remains very, very sure is that the next mandate is coming in a few days from now. The Constitutional Council is expected to give the official results or publish the official results of the March 25th senatorial election that took place in Cameroon. But unofficial results in the northwest region of the country are indicating, the results are indicating that the Social Democratic Front is taking the lead. When we look at the northwest region with the highest number of councillors belonging to the governing CPDM political party, and we see the Social Democratic Front taking the lead, what does this mean to you as an actor of the civil society?
First of all, what it means to me is that there's democracy being practiced in the Northwest, that there's an interest in projects, in what can be done. And I think the councillors there realize that if they voted according to party lines, then the House was going to get just one color, going to be CPDM. But with the possibility of having some senators of the opposition, be them a minority, there is that chance that at least there will be an opposing voice, and some debate from time to time can be heard.
Could the Anglophone crisis might have contributed?
Oh, certainly it does. I think
results, though they are yet to be made public in the Northwest.
Personally, I think that a lot of the councillors voted their conscience, voted their heart. I've often said here that this Anglophone problem is not one of rebels or a few people who have got money from outside and they want to do it. It's something that people feel dearly. It's a pity there is no way of asking the people sincerely in a vote, where a secret ballot, what the people really think. Until you find out the vast majority, much more than the Minister of Communication thinks, would say there is a problem and this is the way to go. This is a cultural problem. This is our background. This is where we come from. This is what we want to do. Nobody, but I said nobody, except a tiny little minority, want to see this country separate, want to see this country divide, but want to see the governance different. We want to do our own things the way we know we can do it. We want to debate. And we are not afraid of the outcome. And if the right wins, fine. If the left wins, fine. We go together. Then we should debate. We cannot just sit and expect that things will come from a faceless group, from people. I'm sure they must be thinking, but so far the thinking is not to the liking of the people, and it's not open. Some say it's the French controlling us from the background. I don't know how much that is true, because even France is not run that way. We really do need to have the society open. Or let's carry out an experiment. Let's leave the Anglophones run their own part of the country the way they see fit. Still in the Federation, still in the Republic. Nobody's talking of breaking off. And compare the system.
Because when you look at the situation on the ground, things are getting from bad to worse.
Yes, and I'm not a prophet of doom.
The people keep deserting their various localities. Houses are set ablaze on daily basis. There was a similar situation in the locality of Konye that Equinoxe television visited recently.
I'm not a prophet of doom, but Mimi Mefu, really believe me, things are definitely going to get worse before we can even think of it getting better. For one simple reason, there is stubbornness. Stubbornness on both sides. Nobody wants to give in, and nobody feels he should give in, and that is sad. Why not have this dialogue that everybody has called for, that everybody talks of? I think everybody talks on both sides about dialogue. Then where is it? Why can't we dialogue? Call anybody. I mean, obviously, don't go and call people that of one persuasion or one that is dialoguing under the gun. But, you know, there are actors, there are people who are concerned, there are people who are willing to come out and debate and put forth their points.
Many are questioning how the dialogue will take place when a good number of Anglophone Cameroonians are behind bars and others
people who
in
are
refugee
doubting
camps in Nigeria.
People who are doubting how the dialogue. People who are doubting how the dialogue will play our bad faith. I mean, let's even start with the ones we know. Bring the Aguabalas, bring the Siseko. Let them sit on the other side and talk. Huh?
You're talking about Siseko when his whereabouts is not known. He's been detained in the nation's capital.
I like to believe that my Minister of Communication is not telling us that.
There can be no debate when Anglophone Cameroonians are in jail and others in Nigeria.
I think it's naive to say that.
In refugee camps.
They are all Cameroonians. They have a right to be to debate, and taking them and locking them up and threatening them that they cannot debate is just not on. It's just not on at all.
And just a final question from you, Mr. Davison Deate. I want to get your reaction. The team from the Aya Foundation was heading to neighboring Nigeria to acquire, first of all, and equally assist victims of the Anglophone crisis, fleeing Anglophone Cameroonians in neighboring Nigeria, and they were barred from crossing to Nigeria. What is your reaction?
My reaction is that we know no shame. We know no shame. We're making people famous, we're making them popular for no reason. These are people going to carry out humanitarian goods. These are people who are known, their positions is known. Why ban them? Then why make it faceless? And the officials tell you orders have come from above. Who is above? Who has given the orders?
Thank you so much, Mr. Davison Deate, for joining us tonight on Talking Point. We hope to have you some other time again.
Thank you.
To our televiewers, it was equally a pleasure having you with us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television. Wishing you a blessed stay in the company of our programs. Until we meet again, goodbye.